Welcome back to Combined by Alana. If you know me, you know my next guest. It's Sabrina Rudin, the owner of one of my favorite restaurants, Spring Cafe, which is an organic and vegetarian natural restaurant. Sabrina opened her first restaurant in 2013 in Aspen, Colorado, and lucky for me, she opened her second location right here in downtown New York City. Let me just say, I'm so lucky to have guests that are people that I look up to and have such burning questions for, and Sabrina is one of those people. Sabrina is someone I totally admire and really relate to. She's a female entrepreneur, wasn't exactly in the food biz, but realized it was her passion, utilizes high quality ingredients at home and in her restaurants, and is just the sweetest person on the planet. Something I love to say is that happy cells make happy people, and Sabrina fits that bill entirely. In this episode, we talked about Spring Cafe, obviously, how her biz started and grew, her way of eating, which is truly reflective of her Spring Cafe menu, raising her own kids to eat cleaner, better for you ingredients, and literally everything else that you and I would want to know from Sabrina. So without further ado, here's my episode with Sabrina Rudin. Welcome to the Combined by Alana channel.
Thank you for having me.
You're a dream guest.
Oh gosh.
No, I know.
I'm so excited to be here.
I just think you're so cool in the sense of you just did the thing, you just opened a restaurant based off of the way you were eating and filling a niche and a need and all these things, and that's obviously something I relate to, but you have done it in such a grand scale. Oh, well, I mean, it is grand though, and
yes, we have 2 locations, but it took a very long time to get there.
I know, and I want to get into that because that's incredible, and it's incredibly hard to do. So that's amazing. And I initially, I mentioned, I started as a meal delivery service.
I've had your food. It's amazing.
Thank you. We have a lot in common in that way, in just utilizing high quality ingredients. We're going to get into all of it, but I just want to seriously give you kudos because you're to me, I look up to you.
Thank you.
I really do.
That really means a lot.
And that's why I wanted you
I
here.
think you're awesome, so thank you.
Oh, thank you. I do want to start with, you grew up with parents who cared about health and nutrition. You've had an emphasis on health, your whole life. I'm from the Midwest, and we lived similarly, but you grew up that way. And, what was that like?
Oh gosh.
I guess, in your own words.
Well, it's all my mom, right? Uh-huh. So it all started with my mom. My mom, I've told the story before, but my mom had terrible allergies in her 20s, tried conventional routes. It didn't work, tried allergy shots, over-the-counter medication, was suffering, started doing her own research, thought there had to be a better way, and discovered the raw food, juicing, sprouting movement, Hippocrates Institute, Ann Wigmore, who became her mentor. And she started eliminating things from her diet: gluten, dairy, processed sugars, or refined sugars, processed foods. And she realized that when she did that, her allergies seriously diminished and really went away. She had some seasonal allergies, but all the inflammation she was dealing with, the chronic allergies, skin conditions, it cleared up from this way of eating. And that set her on a path. And this was, 40 years ago, before this was all in the mainstream, before people were really talking about this. So I have to hand it to her that she was, as I like to say, very ahead of her time and, brave enough to sort of follow that path just because she saw that it was working for her. So it started with my mom. She met my dad. She converted my dad sort of to this way of life, and they had me. And that was, she always likes to say that I was her science experiment, but that's really how it started, because she decided that she was going to use everything that she had found and researched and tried and use it to raise me. And so what was it like? It was funny. It was delicious. It was, equal parts embarrassing and different, because nobody else was drinking carrot juice or making their own nut milk, or other people were, but not on the large scale that we see it now. And so that's just how I grew up. But it's funny because it wasn't like I knew that there was an unhealthy way and a healthy way. And I was like, oh, we're doing things the healthy way. My mom, really what she did, and sort of I think what I've tried to do in my life, is to that was just our life. That was just, this is the food you eat. This is the bounty and the abundance and, beautiful organic vegetables and fruits. These are all the delicious treats that you have. And she would get them from health food stores or food co-ops, rice milk ice cream, and different drinks or juices or cookies or all the treats that we have. She would home make so many different things like banana popsicles and muffins. And I mean, the kitchen was her lab, which I think is where I got my love of cooking and love of being in the kitchen. She was in the kitchen all the time. But I think she did a really great job of not sort of othering the way we were eating as like, this is the alternative, this is the better way. This is it. Like, this is how you eat. This is how you these are the products we use. These are, and as I got older, she would educate me why we do this or why we avoid certain things in an age appropriate way, just like I educate my kids in my own way when it's age appropriate. But I think that's the best gift that she gave me, was really not creating this sort of dichotomy of like, everything else is bad and this is good. We're only doing the good. It was sort of, that was just what I knew. Our whole kitchen was filled with an abundance of different things that I could always choose from, eat. And so it was, to me, that was the only thing I knew, and so as I got older and adopted it on my own, because I saw how good I felt, I was able to sort of run with it.
That's so fascinating, because it could go either way, right? It's like you grew up with all of these healthy foods, and all of a sudden you go to college or whatever, and you're like, you get thrown a bag of like Ruffles in front of you or something, and you're like,
I ate plenty.
Okay.
I definitely experimented with Doritos.
Yeah.
I had a best friend in middle school. Her name was Heidi Bauer, and I would always go to her house for sleepovers, and I used to love going, one, because her mom was an amazing baker, and there were always like delicious homemade treats at home, but also because she ordered delivery pizza, which to me, coming from my family of like, the pizza was delicious, but it was made with like rice crust and vegan mozzarella or goat cheese, and I didn't really know that there was like a whole world of delivery style pizza, until I would go to friends' houses and we would always order it. And sure, I experimented. I wouldn't call it rebelled, because there was nothing really to rebel against. Right. Like if I wanted to try something, my mom was always like, we'll try it. But I think that I would eat all of that. But but I started to notice, because my diet and my lifestyle was, and I say diet meaning like what I ate, not a specific diet, like because what I ate was whole plant-based organic foods, I think I realized that I felt really good, and I oftentimes felt better than a lot of friends, and that's where the whole give advice, how to teach people to cook desire came from, is because as early as high school, friends would come to me and say, like, what are you eating that looks so good? Or I have a headache. Don't you ever get headaches when you have your period? And I, it was sort of in those conversations that I realized there was a lot of knowledge to share, and that people actually wanted to feel good. And food and what I ate and what I used or didn't use, like products with chemicals, all contributed to that feeling good. Yeah. And that's then I sort of was really able to like adopt it as my own.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to get into that, about just like food as medicine and how that can affect your body, because I think that's so important. And I'm sure that was something that greatly impacted you and the choices you made and everything. So what was a dinner, like what kind of dinner did your mom make? Like what was on the dinner table?
There was always a huge salad. Okay. And my mom always served family style my whole life, which is, and I always served that way. And it's how I, even I think to this day, when my husband and I met, like we would go out to dinner and the waiter would always joke, like, are you, it's too much food. Because I always like a sort of family style shared meal. But so much was on the dinner table. Always a big salad or raw veggies of some kind. If it wasn't a salad, it was like a plate of, peppers and cucumbers and hummus and carrots. But generally a salad, always with a lot of sprouts, because my mom found sprouting early on. And so our whole laundry room was her sprouting lab, where she would grow alfalfa, sunflower, broccoli, all kinds of sprouts. Yeah. So always a big salad with sprouts. And then, you know, even though it was mostly vegetarian food and clean eating, as we like to say in these days, it was very substantial. So shepherd's pie, stuffed shells, vegetarian lasagna, yes. A lot of soup. My mom was a master of soup. My husband makes fun of me that I will eat soup even in like the heart of summer when it's 90 degrees outside, because she always made soup year round, with tons of beans and vegetables and homemade broths, and a lot of veggies, like, you know, steamed or sautéed, all the greens, broccoli, kale, bok choy, a lot of potatoes, roasted, baked with different sauces, or cashew sour cream with dill. So very, very filling, hearty, very delicious foods. But there was always a big abundance. And then I wasn't raised completely vegetarian. I never had meat. She raised me without meat or pork, without red meat or pork, but occasionally a little bit of fish, or really not really poultry. She never cooked poultry, but once in a while, I think especially if she could see that I needed more, or as I got older, if like vegetarian, I wasn't feeling totally satisfied. Yeah. Sometimes a little bit of wild caught seafood, but mostly all of those like very hearty vegetarian dishes.
That's so cool. Again, like I'm from the Midwest, so it was like chicken piccata and like potatoes and like, you know, all the different things. But it's funny that we had such a different experience like growing up, but yet still live a similar lifestyle.
We both found it.
Yeah, you find it somehow. And I think it's really cool that that was ingrained in you. So I guess back to how you grew up, like, and how that affected you on a cellular level. Like, people always ask me if I like cheat, right? Like and again, like I do food combining. I follow food combining. It's a lifestyle. It's not a diet.
My mom raised me with food combining.
Really?
Principles.
Really?
So, yes, we always had dessert before dinner because we were never allowed to have.
Was it fruit?
Fruit we only eat. So even to this day, I only eat fruit on an empty stomach.
Okay. Oh,
because
fab.
my mom fully lives in a food combining
what did you understand?
Our green juice and our fruit, like fruit was until noon, or, you know, only on an empty stomach. And then it was one of the funniest memories of growing up is any sugar, even like a vegan cheesecake or, you know, other dessert would always sort of ferment on heavier food. So my mom would always have me eat dessert before dinner.
That is
because
so funny.
I would digest the dessert and then eat like,
because it's like a raw.
She didn't want me to have sugar at the end of the meal and then go to sleep like with that fermenting in my stomach. So it's very funny to me that food combining has become. I think of it as just a natural rhythm for how I live, and you know I don't follow it to a T all of the time. Yeah. But it's very interesting how it's become sort of in the spotlight these days, and seeing like the different interpretations and how I just never would have imagined that people would adopt something like the way my mom spoke about it so many years ago.
Well, it's funny because like on that note, like there's so much information out there. I mean, in general about everything, but especially like I focus on food combining. And I break it down literally in 4 basic principles because I'm sure you feel the same way. Like simplicity is everything. And so especially like in so many different ways, I'm sure for you as like a mom as well, and like just prepping, but especially with knowledge and information, like simplicity is everything. Going back to like, people, you know, they ask me if I cheat. And the answer is no, because it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And I don't know if you know Mike Perrine. He owned Vitality. For those who don't know Mike, just like he owned Vitality here in New York, which is just a wellness place with he's a colon hydrotherapist. He's awesome and totally a mentor and just great human. With a great podcast. He said this, and I am probably going to botch it a bit, but he worded it really well. He said that when he changed his lifestyle, which included food combining, it changes your brain chemistry, and it changes you on a cellular level. And you don't then crave the foods that you had before living this cleansing sort of like lifestyle, which basically means like the processed stuff, right? Like he is one to like say, like, he's the first one to say, like, I used to eat a bunch of junk, and then my life changed, and like I didn't crave it anymore. And also, he was a chef. He worked at Angelica's Kitchen and all this stuff.
My
and
favorite restaurant of all time.
I wish I got to go.
It's the best.
I wish I got to go. But he said, he's like, if I wasn't able to recreate the flavors of those foods as a chef, it would have been harder. It would have been a little trickier, because I wouldn't be able to enjoy food and also get creative, because like living this lifestyle and living in a way of a healthy sort of way, it does get you more creative in the kitchen, which is something, you understand and I understand, but a lot of people don't. And a lot of people don't understand that, like, just simply having those grounding meals but utilizing high quality ingredients will make you feel good. You can still have the thing, just use high quality ingredients. Absolutely. Which I think is something I notice a lot, especially with Spring Cafe. Like, you have like your the superhero burrito, which, by the way, like, my friends are obsessed with. I'm so big on, like, recreating or redefining comfort foods, and saying that no, it's actually about like having those foods that you love, but utilizing high quality ingredients that ground you.
Absolutely. And I think that's my whole philosophy. I mean, people ask me all the time, like, oh, do you cheat? Do you ever eat bad food?
Yeah.
And then I don't even know what I'd be cheating on, because I eat everything. Like, we have pizza once a week. Right. The other day, I just couldn't face vegan cheese. Like, I really craved a real delicious pizza. So I got a gluten-free sourdough crust from Need Love, who I know
I love. Yeah,
you
I
also
love Sarah. Yeah.
love. And, I even bought some very high quality, like, because buffalo milk is A2 and it's easier, for me to digest. I don't do great with cow's dairy, but bought some buffalo mozzarella from a really great source, put it on with lots of veggies, and thoroughly enjoyed a beautiful pizza. And we have pizza night once a week at our house, and I love dessert. I eat sweets all the time, except for when I'm doing like a gut, cleanse. Mm-hmm. But I think it's sort of what you said. The best example I can give is my whole life I grew up on vegan, refined sugar-free ice cream. And I loved it. That was like, if I wanted ice cream, my mom would give me, when I was a kid, there was a company called Rice Dream. It's not really around anymore, but
I've heard of it.
It was the best pops and ice cream sandwiches. They used to make these like mocha saucers I was obsessed with. And they were, so my mom would give me all these things, and then that was what my cells and my brain knew as ice cream, right? As a kid, like, that was the sweetness level I knew. That was the taste and the texture. And so for me, when I go, like, once in a while, if I'm with a friend, or growing up, when I was in high school or college and kids went to Haagen-Dazs or Ben & Jerry's, and I would have some, to me, that wasn't really ice cream. Like, it was really sweet and kind of artificial tasting, and I didn't really feel great after it. And so, like, to me, it was like, oh, we're going to get this other treat. Okay. But to this day, if I'm craving ice cream and I go and get, like, if I were to just go get a gelato, like a real dairy, white sugar, high quality or not gelato, to me, it still doesn't taste like ice cream. It also ties into the question when people always ask me, like, how do I get my kids to eat this way? Yeah. And I've said this before, but I think it really rings, for me, it just sums it all up, is that, like, children don't come out of the womb just craving chicken nuggets and Haagen-Dazs and French fries. That's just doesn't happen. Sure, their biological taste buds and receptors, some transfers over from, the mother, of what they absorb while they're in the womb, but eating and what we eat and what we crave is a learned behavior. So even my kids, I notice with them, if they want everything in sight, and when they're little, I'm very, very strict about it. And as they get older, of course, they take a bite out of more of the world, so to speak. But I even notice to this day, like, my kids will go to Van Leeuwen and they'll have a vegan ice cream with, like, the dye-free sprinkles, and they'll eat it and they'll love it. But if they get something like really sort of crappy, as I would say, like from a friend, or really low quality with a lot of dye, corn sugar, like all these artificial flavors, which occasionally they will get just from the world, and they'll take a few bites, or even if they finish it, they'll be like, ugh, I don't feel so good. Like, I don't need the rest of it. And then even my eldest now, like, he'll come home and he'll be like, Mom, I don't, like, I need veggies. I need a salad.
Yeah.
I need, like, I would just, you make dinner, and like, I want all the stuff. And I think it's absolutely telling that, like, when you give your body things that it thrives off of, your body becomes your best metric of, like, how do I feel when I eat this? So then when they eat something, they can enjoy it, they can delight in it, but they're like, oh, let me come back to my North Star a little bit. And hopefully that's, setting them up for that to be their foundation for their whole life. One, that they'll listen to their body and their taste buds, and two, that this is sort of the whole food, real ingredients, preservative-free foundation that I want them to have as their baseline.
Totally. No, I think you're also, like, beyond explaining that, like, intuitive eating thing. I mentioned this, like, on every episode almost, how, like, it's something I can understand that people roll their eyes at, because it's, you hear it on Instagram or whatever, and people, they sort of are like, okay, but, like, I can't just stop eating. Like, they don't really understand what that means. And rightfully so. I mean, it's not really well explained, or it's explained by, like, an influencer who looks fantastic, and, like, it's like, oh, like, must be easy for them, sort of a thing. But I think to instill that in your kids, and, like, even the way your parents did or your mom did, like, I think that's so important just to know. And you're giving them freedom to be like, you can try this, just, like, know that when you come home, you'll be, you're going to be grounded in the best way, in the right way. And you're going to get the foods that you love. And it's cool that they don't even really crave that, which makes sense. Again, back to the whole cellular aspect of it all. I mean, you're really training their brain as well, which I think is really cool and important. And I think future generations will continue to do that, or at least I hope so.
I hope so too.
Yeah. I heard in a podcast with Melissa, who we love, that you bring, like, a cooler.
Oh God, I'm gonna, like,
You're the cooler lady.
I'm gonna be infamous. For
You bring a cooler. I had to bring it up because I was like, that is so funny, because I feel like I don't have kids, but I'm like, I feel like I'd be the same way, where you bring a cooler of better for you treats or something for them to eat, because you don't want them to eat a bunch of crap.
So when they're really, this all started because when they were really little, and we would go to birthdays, there was so, like, my biggest thing that I'm not a fan of is food dye. I mean, I don't even think it's, like, fit for human consumption.
Yeah.
Food dye and a few other chemicals that I really am not okay with. I'm just not on board with
Totally.
them. And so when my kids were very little, when they really didn't, 2, 3, 4, even 5, even I would say 2, 3, 4. When they get to, my 5-year-old now, like, starts, he notices. But when they're really little, like 2, 3, 4, they want to go to the birthdays or, like, the other little, kid events. There were some things that I just found really egregious, like really bright red colored popsicles or sodas, or, cupcakes, cakes that just, I don't need my kids consuming those all the time at such a young age. And so when I would bring them to birthdays, I would always bring, if it was like an ice cream party, a cooler with ice cream, or I would ask the mom, what are the cupcakes that you're serving? Yeah. Now, I'm very lucky that a lot of my friends, like Melissa, when they have a birthday party, do dye-free cupcakes, do the Yum Earth treats, do vegan ice cream, especially when their kids were, little. But I would make it a point to really ask moms what they were serving, and then I would bring sort of the better for you, but look exactly the same alternatives. And when my kids were 2, 3, 4, which to me are really the youngest ages that matter to me the most when it comes, to food and what they're sort of training their taste buds with, I would just, they really didn't notice. I would just pull out their treat, or if it was a a vanilla cupcake with pink frosting. I would give them a vanilla cupcake with pink frosting. Like, they didn't know that I was taking it from the cooler. I would just give it to them on a plate when the cupcake time came around. Was it
dyed with beets?
Dyed with beets, dyed with, other plant colorings like raspberry juice, all different things. It's easy to do. Use. Blue, blue spirulina. And that was sort of where that came from is, once I went to an ice cream party and my kids were really little and I did not want them having the Mr. Softy. So I brought just all the popsicles that looked the exact same and they were thrilled. They didn't know the difference. Now, obviously my 8-year-old, it starts around when they're 5, 6 and they go to parties. They know the difference. And then I don't ever want them to feel ostracized. So they eat, what's at the party. Luckily, again, a lot of friends, close friends, that whose birthdays they go to either know that I care so much about it that they always have both options so that many kids can, have it, or they just have the cleaner options because they care about it too. But does he get stuff? Absolutely. I mean, but what's funny is that I think that there's a knowledge there and an awareness, right? Not an anxiety provoking knowledge, but a knowledge like, hey mom, like I really want that, but it has food dye. Like, is that cool? And I'll say, sure. Like, that's something that might look really good, might not make your body feel so good, but it's delicious once in a while. If you want to have it with your friends, go ahead. And sometimes they'll have it and love it and then be like, ugh, like, I'm I don't want any more of this. And sometimes he'll be like, I don't really want the dye. Like, I don't want that right now. I'm just going to have, something that you bring, or I'll have a treat later when I go home. And again, I think it's just like you would educate kids about anything else. I very gently educate them about food. It's not really something you have to drill into them, right? Because children are very receptive. They absorb information. They're very self-regulating when given the opportunity. So it's just from seeing everything in our house and just from their taste buds are trained just like mine were. Yeah. Like, oh, that's a so delicious ice cream pop. I want that. I love how it tastes. That's my ice cream, totally. Versus the really crappy stuff that they're like, okay, I'll have a few bites and then, ugh, like, it's too sweet. My middle one, really, he won't even finish it. Like, he just he'll take a bite and be like, I don't want it, Mom.
Do you have all boys?
I have all boys. I have 3 boys.
Wow. And that's so awesome. You've gotten them to convert because I think, they eat plenty. They get their share of everything that they want, and they go and they have things at birthdays. But for the most part, they on their own. They understand. Yeah. And they like it. They take ownership. They love to cook. They love to make healthy food. They understand that they cook as well.
Post videos. Yeah, my eldest, there's a smoothie that he designed on the spring menu.
Really? Which one?
Peanut butter berry blast.
I love that. Wait, that's so sweet. Literally, your menu is like everything you grew up with. It is so heart of you and what you grew up with.
That
and
was
like
the point. So it feels nice to hear that.
No, I understand. Like, it's like, because what are we inspired by most? And it's like the things we grew up with, but like, it's for me, it's like making them better for you, or better using higher quality ingredients for you. It's like, no, I grew up like literally like this, which I think is really cool.
I wanted people to feel like they were in my kitchen, without being in my kitchen, and just really sat like, that feeling of just like, oh, I'm hungry. I want something good. I want something healthy. Yeah. And being able to walk in and just eat anything and know that it's like really made intentionally with love, with high quality ingredients, all organic.
You said even like, your mom had like big bowls of salad. It's so funny because you have big bowls of salad. Like,
everyone tells me my portions are too big, or like, but that was really, I grew up eating that way. I'm with you, by the way. That's what people want. They want to feel the most, for me, like one of the most depressing things is if you go to a restaurant and you order a meal and it's such a small portion and you just feel like you want more, but you're in a restaurant, so you can't ask. It's not like you can ask for seconds.
I know.
So I would really, our whole brand is sort of founded on the premise that I would much rather have someone say, oh my God, this is so big, I have to take some home, I can't finish it. Then, oh my God, I'm so hungry, but I don't want to order another meal and I can't ask for seconds because I'm in a restaurant.
No, totally. So, I always love just a big salad before I have all my cooked food. Again, food combining. Yeah. Anyways, I want to fast forward with you. Okay. You were a ski instructor in Colorado.
I was.
How was that?
Snowboard instructor.
Snowboard. Wait, oh my God, cool. Oh my God, your core must be insane.
Well, it was before some kids. Did you say my core?
Yes.
My core wasn't.
You have to be like, yes, you have to have like serious core strength.
I had 3 kids. I don't know if my core is so insane, but
okay,
we're getting there.
We're working on it.
We're getting there.
Okay. Got a whole workout routine. We're gonna get you back on the slopes. Okay. So you were a snowboard instructor in Colorado. You realized that there was like a lack of health food restaurants. You were living in Aspen.
I was living in Snowmass. I moved to Snowmass after college to teach snowboarding for a year, which was something I'd always wanted to do.
Really?
I had been to Aspen and I had been to Snowmass every year growing up. My parents went on their honeymoon there when they were married and just fell in love with it. So it took me every year. That was where I learned to ski and was just a big part of my life out in the mountains.
That's so cool.
Wanted to teach snowboarding after college. So moved there for a year and just... yeah, it was coming down off the mountain one day, and there had been this really wonderful vegetarian restaurant in Aspen that was no longer open, but there was just nowhere to eat. Like, I wanted those meals that we talked to each other about, right? Like big salads with sprouts, vegetarian shepherd's pie, a vegetarian lasagna, a big bowl with grains and beans and tofu and rice, a lot, like Angelica Kitchen type food.
Yeah.
And, may it rest in peace because I miss it so much every day.
I so wish I got to see it.
I just wanted that kind of food and it wasn't there. And I thought, this is such an activity-driven lifestyle. How does this not exist? And that was sort of, because of how my parents were, I think food is so central to my being and sort of my mood and everything. Because everywhere we went, in the world, in the country, whenever we traveled for work, for vacation, anywhere we went, the first thing my parents did was find like a health food store and a vegetarian restaurant. And if they could find that, we were good. So, funny. I went away for part of college. Like anywhere I went, I have to find a health food store because I have to find my people who I have to find my spirulina and my nut milk and, my gluten-free bread and my vegan ice cream and all the things that I need.
You want to be comfortable.
Exactly. And it was like, if I had, that was like my comfort.
Yes.
And so I just thought to myself, it's crazy to me that in this place that I love, where I'm teaching snowboarding, where there's this kind of culture, it doesn't exist. That was because I had been to so many vegetarian restaurants all over the country. I had this vision of like what I would want the dream restaurant to be like the culture, the juice bar, the menu.
You had a vision. So you had like ideation, right?
Yes. Never thought I'd open it, but I had a vision.
Yeah.
Thought someone else would take my idea and do it.
I know about opening restaurants through like truly reading Anthony Bourdain's books and how like tricky that is. I'm not classically trained, but I'm not. And I cooked at home, like same, different foods, but I still had a love of cooking, and that's what got me in the kitchen and with Combined and everything. But you opened a restaurant. Like, how did you? Because that's not easy. How did you do that?
Oh boy, it was a long time ago. It was 11 years ago that we opened our first. And I think first I went through the process of just trying to see if somebody else would open it. Calling different people, seeing, this is my idea. Do you want to open it? No one wanted to open that in Aspen. People thought it wouldn't do well. People thought it was too seasonal. And I think I started, the one thing about me is when I get an idea in my head and when I start to see it and visualize it, it's very hard for me, no matter how many no's I get, to let it go. I've been that way my whole life. It's my Achilles heel, if you will. And so I just had this idea. I could see it. We had a space for it because my now husband, who I had met when I moved back for a second season, had this space he had developed. I knew it would be perfect for this kind of concept. And I thought to myself, I really want to do this, but I don't know the first thing about opening a restaurant. So I partnered with a friend, but I brought on a friend who could help with the operations.
Okay. And
getting that off the ground. And then I was very lucky to be introduced to another now very dear friend who's consulted for us for all these 11 years in Aspen and New York. And all he does is restaurant operations and open restaurants. And he's, has his own, he's a partner in some, he consults for other projects. And he really helped me with sort of the nuts and bolts of like the finances, food costing, labor costs, things that I just didn't know because I had never thought about
Totally.
I always knew I wanted to do my own thing. I had always loved food. I didn't think I would open a restaurant. And that, there were a few little pieces that came together. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it was really just like as you would start any idea. Just really, I was lucky that I think my education allowed me to learn how to think, to be confident in my ideas, to want to go for my ideas. And so I was like, we're going to do this. And, you start the way most people who start something start. You literally just start. You don't know what you're doing, but you have an idea and you learn as you go.
Yeah.
And it was and is very challenging, but it was a very mission-driven restaurant.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gave me the confidence, because while I didn't know how to run a restaurant, how to open a restaurant, what I did know unequivocally was how to create very delicious, healthy, organic, vegetarian food. And I knew the vibe and the concept that it needed, and I knew a lot about clean food, organic food, non-toxic cookware, kitchens, design aspects of the restaurant. So I leaned into all the things that I did know. And I found people who knew what I didn't know. And I put those two things together. And I think because we were so mission driven and because I was so passionate about what I wanted to achieve, I was able to sort of really rest on that and rely on that and have confidence in that, even though I didn't know some of the other things.
That's awesome. There's like two things there. I'm like, it is knowing what you don't know. When you first start,
you have to know what you don't know. You have to find people who know.
You do. And that's like the other thing too, right? Is like finding your community and people who believe in what you're doing and who want to help you. It's not easy to do, but it's about talking about your ideas. And I think people are sometimes scared to talk about their ideas and their thing. But the more you do, the more you realize people gravitate towards it and they want to help. Absolutely. More people want to help than not.
You have to really believe in your concept and what you're trying to start. Almost foolishly, because you'll be met with a lot of no's along the way. More no's than you're met with yeses. That doesn't mean that you don't take constructive criticism, that you don't listen to feedback, and that sometimes some of the people saying no won't also have really good advice for you. It just means that when you're a founder and you're starting something, you really, really have to be all in on your vision, because it takes a long time. Like people think things happen very quickly and that things are sort of overnight successes. But most people who I think are successful founders, have successful businesses, will tell you that it's a very long road. Yeah. Like over a decade sometimes, and you're still trying to build that really successful business. So it was... It obviously changed the course of my life entirely for the better. It gave me a path and a business, and allowed, I wouldn't be sitting here if I hadn't started that all those years ago. But it was not expected, but really became something I had no idea what it would become at the time when I opened it.
Yeah, I don't think any of us do. It'll become, again, like I was a prepared meal service. Now I'm truly focused on gut health education, because that was at the heart of my business, also mission driven. And that's what I want to focus my energies on the most. Obviously, I love to feed people, but I really, but I'll just come to Spring Cafe.
Come anytime.
I am happy to. I will take the train for you.
Maybe we'll have one in Brooklyn soon, hopefully one day.
Please do.
We really want to do Upper East Side, and then Brooklyn's our next dream.
That makes those locations, and I'm saying that also from like a delivery standpoint. I like just my customer base and everything, which I think we have a very similar customer base. Yeah. Those are the locations. That's the spot. Williamsburg, if possible. I'm saying Williamsburg because I'm being selfish. No, but no, I really like think that's. I mean, duh, you're smart. You know what you're doing. So
hopefully
no, I think that's awesome. What's the biggest in opening your first restaurant? What was the biggest challenge? And now a brief word from our sponsor. Do you like what you see? I mean my sweatshirt. Head over to the Combined by Alana website and you can find your own Good Clean Fun sweatshirt available online, shipping nationwide. In opening your first restaurant, what was the biggest challenge?
Ooh.
I know.
I think the biggest challenge for me is the same challenge, the biggest challenge that remains today, and that is managing and operating people. I think,
Like your staff?
Yeah, just managing a team of people, finding the right people.
Yeah.
I think for me, because restaurants are such a human business, right? Like like the error that occurs is human error, and people aren't perfect. No, like as great as someone is, as wonderful as you are as a founder, as wonderful as your managers are, as your supervisors are, as your line cooks are, as your dishwashers, as your prep team is. No, humans are not perfect. Like somebody will inevitably forget to take a sticker off an avocado. Somebody will inevitably, a piece of plastic will, a blender top will break and someone won't notice a piece of plastic in the vitamin. All of these things that happen, and we are, relentless. We're impeccable. We strive for perfection in everything, as anyone with a restaurant does, and with cleanliness and how we wash our produce and all the things that we do. But still, I think it's such a human industry, and humans make mistakes. So it's managing people has always been very challenging for me, right? How do you encourage someone that's had a really bad morning that they have to shake it off and greet people with a smile for that day? It's all of that because I think the food, the making the food, the creating the menu, all of that I really find comfort in. And even the operations are challenging, but I'm able to do it, and I have an amazing team who can do that. But it's the people that make the restaurant, and managing them and finding them and creating a culture that I've always found to be really challenging. And to this day I find it really challenging.
No, I get that as somebody who totally say I'm definitely a people pleaser, and I don't like to be mean, or I'm super non-confrontational. That's always been my biggest challenge too, is just with any staff. And I'm very fortunate to work or have worked with people, if I'm doing a catering job or anything, who are just down to get down and dirty because food is messy. And people who just are really also passionate about your business, and that's important too, is finding people who also love what you're doing and are happy to be there. That's it's such a game changer when you have that. So you're from New York originally, though. Did you always want to open, and I'm so lucky that you opened here, but did you always want to, you opened here in 2021. Was that always the dream?
I think it was the dream once I had opened Aspen. I remember opening Aspen, and I remember saying to my dad, okay, we were driving away from the opening, or it was one of the opening days, and I was like, okay, New York, here we come. And he's like, whoa, hold your horses. You just opened a restaurant. You're insane. Maybe just one, just get one to survive, and you'll be good.
Right.
My parents are very supportive, but it was, it was a funny conversation. And I think once Aspen was sort of up and running, then of course the dream was well, maybe one day I'll open one of these in New York City. Yeah. Where I'm from and where I consider home, and
your friends and connections are here as well.
Just the idea of having this kind of restaurant in the city, selfishly, so that I could eat there every day.
Yeah.
And because it was similar to Aspen, I think there were different places that I loved, but nothing that really was exactly similar or exactly like Spring. Nothing that was in the middle of sort of an Angelica Kitchen and an ABCV. Just a place where any kind of person could go any time of day, get a really delicious meal, feel comfortable going with friends or with their significant other or by themselves. Yeah. So I think it became the dream, and it took a long time. It took 8 years between the two locations, and then then COVID hit, and we opened right after COVID, and so New York has been a lot sort of slower to blossom fully, because COVID times were wild and still are a little bit strange, in the way people's lives and daily habits have changed. Yeah. But I would say it was a dream that came right after I saw that. I was like, okay, I'm onto something here with Spring and Aspen. Totally. Now I'd love to do it in New York City.
Well, because I worked at Kith. I worked in fashion for 10 years.
Oh, I didn't know that. I love Kith.
I was on production for Kith for
That's awesome.
for
Kith
5
is like
years.
my husband's favorite brand.
Really?
So I'm always trying to find him like Kith things for the holidays
So
before
funny.
he can see them.
So funny. Yeah, it was definitely a really fun place to work.
Yeah.
But I worked there. I was in Soho. Literally, the office was across from the store. So we always had, and also, I guess, was food combining. So I'm like, okay, I'm eating fruit all day and juice. And like, that's really, because that's just how I am. But like, you know, a lot of people, and I have friends who like were, a lot of my friends there were healthy eaters or wanted to find the healthy option. So I think that you definitely filled like a need.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So nice.
No, beyond. Something I often hear, and I'm sure you also often hear too, is that eating healthy is expensive. What do you say to those people?
Well, especially right now with prices of everything so high, just eating in general is really expensive. Eating healthy is expensive. It's a choice and an investment that you make like anything else. I like to think of it in that, you know, just as people would sort of invest in a savings account or invest in their future financial health, spending a little bit more on groceries now where you can is an investment in your overall health and will absolutely save you money on and time and a lot of despair and heartache on medical bills as you go down the line, because no one can argue now that what we eat correlates with chronic inflammation, which correlates with chronic disease. I wish that, you know, I think that there are a lot of things you can do, right? Like food co-ops where you can volunteer your time and get a very high price reduction on certain foods and buy them in bulk. There are websites like Thrive Market now where a lot of these snacks that I talk about are more attainable, more affordable, because they do offer great discounts and you do save money, and there are coupons and other deals. And then, you know, it takes effort like most things, but finding a local farmer's market or, you know, a local food co-op where not everything is certified organic, but you can get to know the farmers, get to know their practices. There are Amish farms that have websites that you can, you know, order butter, milk, cheese, eggs that are like pasture raised at much more reasonable prices. So it is more expensive in some cases. I think it's not always as much more expensive as some people think it is. There are ways, you know, you can batch cook, you can really source. If you can't buy everything organic, you can avoid the dirty dozen and buy a few things organic. That major chains like Wegmans or Kroger's have like certain organic, you know, like berries or lettuce, certain things now. But I will say that it, you know, when people say like eating healthy is expensive, yes, but most things in life are expensive, and it's a choice of what we choose to spend our money on. For instance, I'm not a big shopper. I like to shop occasionally. But it's not, my shopping is food shopping. I will go to a grocery store the same way some people will like go to a department store. So, and I think that there are like those few things that I mentioned. I actually did a podcast on this, on like how to make things, where I offer tips on making healthy eating more affordable.
Where can you find that?
It's on Ian Builds Wealth.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. We can
send
link
it. I'll put it in the show notes.
Choice of what we choose to spend our money on. For instance, I'm not a big shopper. I like to shop occasionally. But it's not, my shopping is food shopping. I will go to a grocery store the same way some people will like go to a department store. And that is and investing a lot of money in our food and in my kids' health and their future. And in my family's health is really what's important to me. So, and I think that there are like those few things that I mentioned. I actually did a podcast on this, on like how to make things, where I offer tips on making healthy eating more affordable.
Where can you find that?
It's on Ian Builds Wealth.
Where can you find that?
It's on Ian Builds Wealth.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. We can
send
link
it. I'll put it in the show notes.
Choice of what we choose to spend our money on. For instance, I'm not a big shopper. I like to shop occasionally. But it's not, my shopping is food shopping. I will go to a grocery store the same way some people will like go to a department store. And that is and investing a lot of money in our food and in my kids' health and their future.
Yeah.
And in my family's health is really what's important to me. So, and I think that there are like those few things that I mentioned. I did a podcast on this, on like how to make things, where I offer tips on making healthy eating more affordable.
Where can you find that?
It's on Ian Builds Wealth.
Okay.
I'll send it to you. We can
send it. I'll put it in the show notes. I'm also big on like, if not organic, then local. You know, like going to the Union Square Farmers Market or going to the market in general and like really supporting those local farmers. Your food, the longer it travels, the more you'll lose and all the good stuff in it. Well, you know, if you are concerned about organic being at a higher price point, you know, at least local. If you're somebody who wants to cook at home and wants to do the right things and wants to be healthy and, you know, wants to really utilize whole foods, which I always strongly emphasize using whole foods as much as you can and really incorporating more vibrant plants. And that's like the goal, right? Let's talk about entrepreneurship. I'm going to read directly from this because I like the way I wrote it. What tips do you have for heart-centered businesses, but as a business, how do you stay true to that while making money?
Ooh, I don't know. No, I think you constantly, as a founder, as a business owner, you always have to be reevaluating yourself, your mission, your principles. Sometimes, because something has to give somewhere, right? Yeah. Like I can't do everything that I want to do all the time and be profitable, and you have to really constantly like have a very clear mission of what you want to do, and then just look at and reassess, like, am I being precious about this, right? If I want everything to be organic and I want everything to be with these quality ingredients, maybe my menu, maybe I can't have new specials every day. Yeah. Maybe because like something's got to give, right? The labor cost, like maybe I can only do a special on the weekend, or maybe I have to bring my SKUs down a little bit on our menu in order to give like the best quality of everything. And so I think it's that. I think it's like sometimes as a founder, I want to like just like I want everything to be the way I want it, and I have all these ideas and I want to act on every one of them. But I think really like surrounding yourself with people who can sort of help you crystallize that, and then, you know, because I wear like two hats, like because I'm founder and CEO. I don't know why. I don't know how, but at the moment, like because I still operate as a small business.
I get it.
What I am. We're actually about to like bring in an operating, like a chief operating officer, which will be life changing.
Congrats!
But, thank you. But you know, I think like being able to be a founder and have these ideas and really want to create them, but also understanding that you have to operate your business and make some concessions, not about your mission, not about what really matters to you, but how you sort of roll that out, right? Like maybe you need to have 4 salads instead of 7, you know, so you do constantly have to be looking at it from, I think, 2 different angles, and you have to surround yourself with people who will make you do that and who will help you do that.
Yeah.
But staying true to who you are is tough, especially in times where, you know, there's so many external factors, where things are so expensive, where cost of goods are so expensive, where cost of living is so expensive. But really being clear on, like, I ask myself every day almost, why am I doing this? Why do I have a restaurant? What do I want people to take away from it? What's the most important? And sometimes when I get really frustrated about something, for instance, you know, oh, we can't make this dessert that I really want to make because we don't have like that kind of pastry department right now, or but I want to have this every single day, thinking to myself, okay, but is it important that I just keep creating and making all of these things, or is it important to me that this group of people that loves the restaurant can rely on like these core items, and that they'll be getting organic food, vegetarian food versus something really unhealthy if I can provide that for them. So it's constantly weighing those different things, keeping the very core, you know, mission of who you are and what you want to achieve always. And you don't have to listen to anyone if they try to take that away from you, but making sure that your practices, as a business owner, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, that your practices allow you to keep pushing that mission forward and to keep sharing that mission. Because if you can't operate, then nobody gets to reap the benefit. So it's that back and forth of looking at your practices, your best practices, looking at your mission and seeing what's possible in that overlap.
No, I love what you said about, if you have to scale back on your menu, like it's what you have to do, but that doesn't mean you're not staying true to your mission. And
no,
also,
it just means more people are going to get to have these 7 items than no one having 50 because you won't be open, because you can't afford. Like,
totally.
That's the trade-off.
Also switching gears to, to social media. I think you started sharing recipes. I noticed on Instagram. I'm not the biggest scroller, but you come up in my feed because I care about your stuff.
Good.
You do. No, you do, but I care about your stuff.
I've been working on that, so that's great.
That's okay. So yes, exactly what I want to talk about, Sabrina. So I'm okay, I'm scrolling, and I think, was it last year you started sharing more of your cooking at home?
So it's funny, years ago, I don't even remember how many years ago, a few now. Mm-hmm. I was at a sporting game with my friend Ariel, and she was one of the friends that, I have so many text chains with so many friends about, what do I give my kids? What brand of oats should I get? What's a muffin recipe? Totally. I want to eat vegetarian this week. What should I make? How do you wash your produce? Is this pretzel going to kill my child? What pouch should I give? So many questions. All my friends would always joke, you need a blog, or you need a book, or you need a website. Yes. We have you on speed dial. And so my friend Ariel was like, okay, we're setting this up once and for all. We're giving you an account. She helped me come up with my name, Spring by Sabrina. And I started to share more. But social media doesn't come so naturally to me. I don't know that I would be on it if not for work. I love it and what it's afforded me and what it allowed, the people I meet and the opportunities that I have. And I do love it for that. And I love being able to cook and share recipes and make videos for people. I think that's so cool. But it was last year that I sort of thought, okay, I'm gonna start growing this, and I'm gonna start sharing more. And that was a lot to do with the restaurant. It was a lot to do with other projects that I'm working on that I can't talk about yet, but different things. I was just I'm gonna start sharing, more recipes and just see what happens. Totally. And so I started making cooking reels, cooking videos, and luckily it seems that people really respond to them. I don't have a massive following, but I have an audience that I connect with and engages with the content. And then I started making these recipes, just of personal recipes, or what I was feeding my kids, or certain snack things that I loved, or Halloween swaps, or healthy cooking ideas. Yeah. And that's what I really love to share.
Well, people, I think going back to your mission behind Spring, which is again, as we've talked about, the menu is based off of what you grew up eating and what you eat now. I love that you're sharing what you're making at home, because that's you're nope, that's really what I'm eating.
That's really fun to share. It's funny. Sometimes people will watch my video and then call the cafe and ask to order it. And they're
really?
We don't have that on the menu. Because people
funny.
really do see a connection between me, my kitchen, and Spring, which I love.
That's awesome, though. That's a brand. But I'm telling you.
That I love.
True.
So now I'm for our Spring menu, I'm going to put this
it's good
tofu
market
salad
research
wrap that people are going crazy for.
I saw that. No, that's good really market research.
But it's very funny.
Yeah, no, you see what people respond to. You see what people like. That is the beauty of social media, is stuff like that.
Yes, and it has there's an amazing side and then a kind of weird side. But
yeah, totally.
I just choose to focus on the amazing side.
There's also this thing though. Sharing, you share a lot of your menu items as well, making them at home. There's also this thing about sharing the secret sauce.
I don't really share that many. I don't really share Spring recipes.
No?
I share only personal recipes that I'm making at home. Once in a while, if there's a hero item at Spring that people really want,
that's the hero items.
Version. But I'm not about gatekeeping recipes. I think that is there, our IP that we protect and certain sauces that we have because we're a small business that's growing and we're expanding. Yeah. Absolutely. But I think what's great about Spring food, and I think what people respond to about my food, is it's not that complicated, right? I am not guarding Michelin chef secrets here. This is this is how you eat really healthy. This is how you make it taste good. Mm-hmm. And what's cool is that sometimes there are things at Spring that people really want, and I'll just make a home version. It's not the exact proportions because those are commercial kitchen proportions.
Yeah.
But like I've made an egg burrito on my Instagram. That is it the same as the superhero burrito? No, but is it very similar? And is it what I just make at home and call myself a superhero burrito? Yes. And people really like that. So most of the time, like if people really want a recipe, I'll give them some version of a recipe. But that's but people do see a connection. So I think I just try to teach people. It's all connected, right? I just try to teach people how to cook and eat in a certain way. A lot of whole foods, all vegetarian based. If you want to add, your animal protein to that, I try to let people know like how and what kind of animal protein I would maybe choose. But I think the world knows enough about how to cook and eat meat, and I want to teach people how to eat vegetarian food.
Yeah.
So that's what I focus on. That's what I feed at Spring. And I think that's more of what it is. It's like teaching a way of eating.
Yeah.
More so than just like, I rarely cook from a recipe, like exact recipes. You know, when I make these videos, I have to try to transcribe them.
No, I get that's the worst part too, is like when you make recipe videos for me as well. Like it's
I try to keep it very simple and like how I'm throwing things in the kitchen.
Yeah. It's funny. I taught a cooking class a couple weeks ago, like back to back. And one of the things that I wanted to teach the girls was that I'm like, just how to like measure without measuring.
Yeah.
It's like free pour, that's the word. Like to free pour. And like you can do it. It's totally fine. You're not going to screw it up. Like free pouring is very easy. Yeah. It looks like 1/4 cup is 4 tablespoons and it looks like this. Like it's, it's not, but a lot of people don't know that. And I also I didn't go to culinary school either. I'm free pouring. Like you can do it. Like I promise you can do it.
Just like, veggies are very forgiving. And
yes. And so just pay attention.
Doesn't matter if it's a cup of cabbage or a cup of, you can just sort of like just the idea of getting comfortable with cooking with those types of ingredients.
Yeah. And that definitely, it's funny, that definitely like ties into intuitive, like cooking is like intuitive eating as well. And I think there's a connection there. Do you have anything you want to leave us with? Anything exciting you can share?
Very comprehensive. No, we're working on hopefully new locations and new projects, and we're excited about everything that's happening. So
I can't wait to hear about the new projects. I love Spring Cafe. Are you kidding? I think I'm going on Friday.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully I'll see you there.
So I hope you're there.
Hopefully. I should be.
I hope so. No, thank you
Thanks
for doing
for having me. This was so great.
Of course. And as promised, I did make you your plant thai.
Oh my God.
Because it's called the plant thai.
I can't wait.
But with tofu.
Love.
As you love. So let me grab it. As promised, I made you your favorite meal, excited. Which is pad thai with tofu.
It was very hard to choose.
I know, but this
is like one of my all-time favorite meals.
This is, I call it the plant thai. Great. It's one of my hero meals, but with tofu as requested because I wanted to make it your favorite.
Oh, thank you.
Of course.
So excited.
Obviously only using the cleanest organic ingredients.
Thank you.
And that's
like one of the only foods I'd eat other than my own.
I love that. Yeah.
Devour it. No, I'm thrilled. I can't wait.
I'm so excited. No, thank you for coming on.
Oh my God, of course. Thanks for having me.
No, I've learned so much from you, literally just from our conversation. I could chat with you for so long about.
Well, you're very easy to talk to. You make delicious food. So
thank you.
I love seeing other people in the space, like trying to educate, trying to make it accessible.
Where can everyone find you and follow your recipes?
You can find me on Instagram at Spring by Sabrina.
Yeah.
And the cafe, Spring Cafe Aspen.
Mm-hmm. It's the best. I can't wait for you to expand. Please come closer to me.
I will. Thanks for having me, Alana.
You're the best.
No, thank you. You are. And investing a lot of money in our food and in my kids' health and their future.
Yeah.
And in my family's health is really what's important to me.